Hello everyone, welcome to For His Namesake. I'm Martina and this is Valentine, and if you're joining us for the first time, we're so glad that you're here. Today Valentine and I will talk about money and how wise or not wise are we with it. And that includes you as well. We're talking about everybody here, Christians in general. How wise or not wise are we with our money? Well, I will begin with a very famous Bible verse. I had it written down, I'm sorry. It is found in 1 Timothy 6:10. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. Now, I used to think just money. I would comprehend that wrong and think to myself, oh, money is the root of all evil. No, it's the love of money that is the root of all kinds of evil. Well, I thought that was interesting. So, yeah. And I, for years before we became homeless, I had a love and infatuation with money. I mean, I loved money. I would spend it every which way that I could, and bought things that were totally unnecessary to have. Like, for example, one time I bought an above ground swimming pool, one of those that you can fix up yourself. You know, it was, I don't know how many gallons of water it would hold, but it was one of those that you can fix up yourself, and it had the real pump and everything with it that you do all that. And it was, at that time, I think it was around $900. It's probably a whole lot more now. And we bought it, and there was the package, and they had all these little steps you had to go through, and I thought, why did I buy this? And my husband asked me, why exactly did you buy this? I think it was when our kids were still very young, when Valentine was just young, and she couldn't even swim, really. I mean, goodness. That was just like a thing that I had to have because the neighbors down the road had it. It was one of those things. Well, the Joneses had it, so I got to keep up with them. And then they would buy something else new, and then I have to go buy it too. And so I had an infatuation with money. I'd say probably most of my life. And because I grew up, I would consider it to be wealthy. My parents say that we were not wealthy. I would say that we were. We traveled the world because my father was in the oil business, so I got to travel the world extensively. I've lived all over the world. We ate at nice restaurants. We ate, you know, and we're talking like 5-course meal type restaurants, extremely expensive places. We stayed at expensive hotels. We got to travel to different resorts at different times. And yes, a lot of that my father's company would pay for, but still we had to pitch in, my parents had to pitch in quite a bit of money too in order to do that, but nevertheless. And so I got to, you know, eat with the elite and do things with the elite and the fancy and the rich and the famous. We've met some famous people. And so I always had that mentality in my mind. And so when I married according to my mother, a dirt farm boy, basically dirt poor farm boy, they were thinking, what have you done to yourself? But he was making enough money from his crops for us to live pretty well by. But what did I do? I took that money, and I was a stay-at-home mom at the time, and I took all that money and just wasted it all on things we really didn't need. So anyway, it got so bad at one point that I actually went into the closet and I just cried to God and said, God, please remove this love, this infatuation with money, because I don't like who I have become. This is disgusting. This is disgraceful. Please. And that, you know, that became my God, so to speak. The love of money to me was a lot more important than spending time with God per se, and I didn't really want to, because I always had that guilty feeling coming before the Lord and then having to say, oh, please forgive me, Lord, I spent money on this and I spent money on that. So it does interfere with our walk with the Lord when you know, have the love of money. So, and I think there's another one that says you cannot have two masters. That probably goes with the same thing. Yeah. Did you happen to have that Bible verse handy?
I think it's in that famous passage where Jesus is telling the parable about the unjust steward. A steward was supposed to invest the money for his master, and he didn't do it. He just kind of kept it. And it says at the end, no servant can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will be loyal to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon, which is another word for money.
Yeah. That's for sure. Yeah.
And in my case, I always associated with money growing up as stressful. Money equals stress.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that we were always poor. I'm just saying we had ups and downs with our finances growing up. I would hear my parents getting stressed out just talking about it, no matter what job my dad was in.
Probably because I was spending all the money. That's why. And I was in charge of the money, which is not good. My husband had, I don't know if I just said I would take control of it or if he just said go ahead and do it because he was farming at the time. But yeah, I would waste a lot of money, which was not good.
Well, we also went through some things that affected our money. Like my parents mentioned, I think in one of their marriage videos, that they lost a crop.
Yeah,
From
that was in
flooding?
Arkansas, just on the border of Arkansas and Texas. Yeah, we had some land there, and then I think it was the Red River flooded, and so we weren't able to make the crop at that time, which was soybeans. We were not able to make the crop. So, and it was one of those owner finance things from the previous farmer, and then my parents were, kind of close to us at that time, and they just said, you're kind of got yourself in a bind. These people are gonna foreclose on you on the house, because we had a house with the property, and they said if you can't make the payments anymore on the land and all that, then you're gonna have foreclosure, and so you don't want that, do you? And we'd say no, but what other alternative do we have? And they'd say file for bankruptcy. Of course, that's not very good either. I wouldn't say that that's a very good step to make in our lives, because it's an easy way out. Well, I don't have to pay any more of my dues, and at that time we had credit card debt and all kinds of other debt, and so it's just a way of saying I don't need to pay those anymore. What about all those people that we owe money to? That's not right. I know that eventually it gets taken care of, and with the lawyers and all that, they take care of all the money and everything, but still it kind of eats at you, kind of like, I owe that money, and now I'm basically going to just wipe my hands of it and say, I don't owe any more money. Someone else is going to take care of that for me. So yeah, we filed for bankruptcy, and we were dumb at the time and did 2 different kinds of bankruptcy. We changed one to another, and of course that goes on your credit history for 10 years, and it was on our credit history for 10 years. So anytime we tried to we could not get a credit card, we could not make any major purchases like a car or a house. It was very difficult. You couldn't do it at all, really, because that was always against you. So rule of thumb, don't ever, I'm just giving, I can't tell you what to do, but I would strongly encourage you that if you're at the brink of bankruptcy or the brink of something like that, I would say try to go another route if you can, because it will affect you in the long run for the worst. Yeah. So yeah, that's one way. There was one time, and I thought I don't want to ever file for bankruptcy again. And we came close to it recently when we lost the house. We thought, well, we could just file for bankruptcy. That would be the easy way out. Then we thought, no, that's going to go against us again in the future. It's not good for credit. You're frowned upon. You're not, it's just not a good situation. Banks don't like you. Nobody really likes you at that point. So it almost makes you feel like you're a criminal, actually. Because you're getting a lawyer to help you kind of fight, fight for your case, so to speak, or be a representative, I guess is the word I'm looking for. But still, you kind of feel like a criminal, like you've done this awful, terrible thing, which we did because we spent all our money. But in that case, it was a flood. But still, I don't know. Yeah, it was either going to be a foreclosure or it was going to be bankruptcy. Either way, it doesn't look good on your record. Either way, so I don't know. But we just went with bankruptcy at the time because that's what my parents suggested that we do.
Another thing that affects finances is a loss of job. My dad, when I was 9 years old, he lost a job, and we were going to move at the time to another city. And I remember it took him, I think, a year to get hired again. Someone at our church, he recommended a job to him, so that was a blessing. But still, that was stressful, Daddy trying to provide for the family, and no one wants to hire him. But apparently things did get pretty bad, because I remember there was a time when we were at a gas station, and my parents said, we got a full tank of gas today, and I was so happy about that. For some reason, like we had never had a full tank of gas before. I was like, wow, that's so cool. We've never had that before.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And then another time when we were really, really doing bad, I mean, we had to close our bank accounts because we just, basically ran out of money. And then one time my husband just opened up his wallet and goes, I found a $5 bill. I know that doesn't seem like a whole lot of money, but at the time we didn't have anything. We didn't have any cash, and we didn't have our bank accounts anymore. We had to close those, so we had no money. Living there by ourselves in Texarkana at the time, which is on the border of Arkansas and Texas. But he was just we were just so excited. Yay, a $5 bill. Let's hang on to it for dear life. Let's not use it. So I think at that time we did apply for government aid, and we of course qualified for everything under the sun. Anything from Medicaid at the time. That was when they were giving Medicaid out freely to anybody and everybody. Now I think they're pickier. They don't give it to families anymore. You have to be a single mom with a child that's under a certain age, or you have to have a disability. They're very picky. And rightly so. I feel like a lot of people took advantage of the system. I mean, we would see people that we would hear them in conversation, and they would just say, I'm just sitting on the couch and I'm not working at all and I don't want to work, but I'm on food stamps, yay. And I'm thinking, I don't think that's the right mentality. I feel like we still need to work, and it's not right to take advantage of the government like that. And I'm not saying I'm for the government. I'm just saying that it's not right to take advantage of a situation. When you are able to work, then work. And so, that kind of thing. So, so we were on everything. Medicaid, food stamps, WIC, which means women, infant, and children. What's another one we were on? Medicaid is for medical. We were on for dental. It was a certain name. DentaQuest, I think is the name of it. That's for dental. We had one for vision. Everything paid for by the government. Everything and everything. The only thing we chose not to do was the public housing, which was horrendous. We drove by those places. It looked awful. Gang-like people hanging around on the streets. And we've heard stories of just drive-by shootings and gang violence and drugs and domestic violence where you can hear it. And oh, goodness. And trash everywhere. No thanks. I'd rather live in my car. And at that time we did live in our car for about a day or two until family rescued us and took us to, basically they gave us a home to stay in until we could get back on our feet again. So as you can tell, we've been up and down and up and down, and Lord willing, July 18, my husband and I will celebrate 33 years of marriage. But during that time, most of our disputes or arguments or stress in our lives, like she said, was because of money. And I think that statistically, if people were to do a research on what causes divorce, for example, what is the main reason, I would think that problems with money is at the top of that list. Maybe infidelity would be second, but the number one, I think, is money. Correct me if I'm wrong. If y'all know that it's different, then say so in the comments down below.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Now,
it's just a hassle in general.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you guys know. I know we have a lot of singles, but we also have couples too. So, and especially when you have kids, I think there's more pressure on you to make sure that you got enough money in the bank.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they always say kids are expensive. And that's another thing. We had our two girls, and our girls are, 4 years apart, and then we waited, and that was just God doing that, because we didn't plan it that way. But He didn't want to give us any children right away after that, and I'm kind of glad that He didn't, actually, because of the way the response that we got from both sets of parents when they found out that they were going to be a grandparent again, so to speak. I mean, once you're a grandparent, you're always a grandparent, but you know what I mean. They were going to have another addition now. You would think they would be, jumping up and down, yay, we're going to have another grandchild. Nope. The first reply that my mom gave me was, how are you going to afford that? And then the say from my mother-in-law, y'all don't have the money for a third child. What are you thinking? We can't control what God gives us. God wanted to give us another child.
And I prayed for one secretly, but my grandparents didn't know that.
Right. She and her sister prayed diligently for, I think, a year, specifically for a baby brother, and they got a baby brother. So anyway, but yeah, kids are expensive. They are. I mean, because then we got extra mouths to feed. You got to get them clothing, and when thankfully we didn't have teenagers that wanted to have all the name brands out there, you know, like, oh, I gotta have, you know, a certain kind of jeans, or I gotta have, what are some of those that are fancy, Hillfiger, I gotta have the Hillfiger clothes, or the Calvin Klein, or what were you gonna say?
I don't do name brands or fashion trends. I was never into
Yes,
that.
thank God for that, because those get into a whole lot of money. We've seen some people in our neighborhood when we had a house, they had, you know, fancy shoes, and I would ask them, how much were those? Oh, they were only about $350, and I thought, only? Goodness gracious, I only see how people can spend. That's where I would not spend a whole lot of money on, was shoes or clothing. I would spend it on other things like above ground swimming pools, things like that. Yeah, so we need to be careful how we spend our money. And so in the beginning of our video, there should be a what do you call those? Thumbnail with me, Valentine, being all excited to have money, and me, I'm holding up a calculator, and then my notebook, I was basically doing a budget. If it's always good to do a budget. If you don't do a budget, I highly recommend that you do one. A monthly budget, you know, write down, you know, water bill is this much, the phone bill is this much, you know, write it all down, add it all up, then take the paycheck that's coming in, see how much money you've got, you know, subtract all that total of all the bills, and then don't forget your expenses. Expenses would be like food, gasoline, other things like cosmetics, like if you need a new toothbrush, or, you know, that would be like cosmetics. What are some other things people would need? I'm trying to think.
Gas.
Well, yeah, gasoline and food, and then miscellaneous, which would be, I guess, kind of like cosmetical stuff.
Or anything medical that you
Oh,
need?
yeah. If you don't have insurance, and even if you do have insurance, you still have to pay extra. You know, you got to pay the copay, and then you got to pay for the medicines, partially anyway, if you don't have good insurance. Trying to think what else. Oh, my mother-in-law always said, you really need to have some extra money for like an emergency fund. Either have that separate, or always put that in your mind to put back several $100s, because you never know if you're going to have a flat tire and you need to get, or, you know, something like that, and you need to get a new tire, or, you know, who knows what, maintenance on your vehicle, oil changes, you know, have all that money set aside for those things. And then, like she said, emergency, because you just never know when you're going to need to have that extra money.
And if you have an income, set aside money for tithing.
That's right. That's important too. Although we did a video once on tithing, and we had several comments telling us that it's not biblical anymore to do tithing. I don't know about that. I would think the Bible doesn't change. The Bible is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So I don't know why someone would tell me it's not relevant for today. I'd like to have your thoughts on that. If you can put on the comments below, is tithing biblical? Is it not necessary for today's time? I don't know. So that would be interesting to see what y'all have to say about that. We just thought it was a biblical thing to do, to give at least 10% of your income. Now, we don't have an income because we're not working. I'm not working, Valentine's not working, and my husband's not working, and we already shared with y'all why we're not working. We are all capable adults. We can work. Yes, I have a few disabilities, but I'm not going to give that as an excuse as to why I'm not working. But you can go through those videos and watch those again. It explains in detail why we are not working. And, you know, basically the way I see it now is that this is what God has planned for us. He doesn't want us to work so we can concentrate on the ministry. It's not just a YouTube channel to us. It's an actual ministry. That's the way we see it. Because we keep in touch with people. We do things for them. Where it's a kind of a close-knit community in a way.
And it's no credit to ourselves.
Right, exactly. This is all God's doing. He's the one that allows it to happen or doesn't allow it to happen. He closes doors. He opens doors. You know, he's in charge of it all. And that's why it's called For His Name's Sake. It's not our channel. So sometimes I'll write in the comments, thank you for coming to the channel, or thank you for, you know, watching the video on the channel. I don't say our channel, because it's not our channel. It's God's channel. So, yeah. Let's see. So I kind of went on a rabbit trail. I apologize for that. So basically, yeah, are we being wise with our money? Are you being wise with your money? And if you're like me and you love money, then either seek counseling on it. They do have counseling for that, believe it or not. Biblical counseling, very important. Don't just go to a secular counselor. If you're a Christian, please, I'm almost, strongly encouraging, it's important to go to a biblical counselor. And then, counseling, talk to somebody about it, close family member, close Christian friend, like a shoulder to cry on, so to speak. Maybe they can give you some words of wisdom of what not to do and what to do. And then, if you have a major credit card and you spend a whole lot of money on that, and you're not going to, and your history that you're not very good at making those payments, those monthly payments back to the credit card company, like there for a while we weren't either, then just cut up the card. We've done that before too. And the one that we have now, and I asked my husband if I could please cut up my card, and he said, no, let's just keep it in the storage room. You never know when you really need it. And I thought, I don't want to ever need it. I don't want to come to that point. So we have differing views on that, me and my husband on that. It doesn't make one work better than the other, but that's just how it is. And I chose not to have a debit card. Like the banks give you a debit card. I chose not to have one on purpose because I don't trust myself with money. I still have that, believe it or not, I still have that infatuation, that love of money, and I'm not good with money because I spend it on things I don't need. And so I purposely told my husband, please do not give me a debit card. I don't want to even sign for it. And I'm so thankful that I don't, really.
I have a verse that kind of goes with that.
Debit cards? Okay,
No,
good.
about loving money.
Oh, good.
It's from Ecclesiastes 5:10. He who loves silver will not be satisfied with silver, nor he who loves abundance with increase. This also is vanity. Just because you have something, you want more and more, are never satisfied.
That's true.
And I struggle with that too. More like, I don't know if I would say jealousy. I just wish that we, I don't even know what the words to say. I don't even trust myself really, because money just stresses me out so much. I'm almost scared, to be honest with you, to get married, because I don't know if I would be able to handle the stress of managing the finances. Hopefully my future husband won't mind doing that for me.
Yeah.
That's just too much for me. I was going somewhere with that. And
That's okay, because I was going to say that, and you took the
Forgot.
words. So that's good that you said exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, because it would be scary to go into the marriage like that and feel inadequate, maybe, I guess, with money, or feel scared around it.
Right. Now, I do know that there are some courses that you can take, and maybe I will take that one day. Of course, you have to pay for the course. See, that's another money issue. You got money organizations that are trying to teach you how to spend or not spend the money, but then you have to pay for the course itself. So that's frustrating. But if I could, I would probably do that. And then there's the Dave Ramsey. You probably heard of him. I know some people like his style of how to manage your money. And there's other banks out there that help you. There's online spreadsheets now that you can do. Back in my parents' day, they didn't have online stuff. It was all by paper, all by hand.
Right, yeah.
But that's good too, so that you always have records, because you can't always trust technology.
That's true.
And I will say, before we went homeless and we were really not doing well with our finances, we did what's called My Points.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Those are online surveys, and the more points you get, you can redeem those points for gift cards. Since then, they've added a lot more gift cards, which is nice. The only downfall, I will tell you, if we're going to go that route, is it is time consuming. You have to do quite a bit of surveys to get enough points for the gift cards, and if you do too many gift cards, you have to pay taxes on that. And I did not know that when I went into it. I guess I didn't read the fine print.
Now tell them how much you made in 1 year. It was quite a bit of money.
Yeah, it was to do the taxing, to consider that an income, so you have to spend $600 worth on gift cards, which I did, and I didn't know that.
Over the course of the entire year.
Over the year. And I do remember that it was because I spent a gift card to Olive Garden one day. $100 worth of gift card, because we didn't have $100 cash, so I went with the gift card. But that adds up, so just be aware of that fact. If you have the money for those taxes, then you can go that route.
And we just thought we'd give you a nice, friendly heads up on that. FYI, is that sometimes the surveys can be discouraging. Just after you've answered all these questions, 20-something, pages of questions, and they'll say, "I'm sorry." It's kind of like that game, Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, you weren't a good fit for this survey after all, or you didn't really answer what we wanted to. Why don't you try this survey? And they all have numbers. Try this survey or that survey. And I was always the one where they just said sorry, or based on my age, usually they'll ask me all these questions, and then they finally say, well, now we're going to wrap it up. We just have a few more demographic type questions, like, are you female, male, where do you live, in a city or town or whatever, and then they would ask me my age. And the moment I said my age, and they'd say, sorry. Well, one time I decided to lie, and Valentine said, no, you cannot lie, because they know who you are. They keep track of that. And then sure enough, I lied, and they said, I'm sorry, but that doesn't match our previous surveys when you answered a different age. They keep up with that. This is all technology, but they keep up.
Well, not only that, but to get to my points, you do have to give your name, and I think even your ID. It's for safety reasons.
Yeah, that's probably how they knew. So
but
don't lie.
But it does come in handy for like those moments when you really don't have the cash, but you have a gift card.
Yeah, that was nice when we went to the nice restaurant, and she just the waitress just took the barcode and just scanned each one of those $25 I think they were $25 increments of money that equaled 100, or was that your sister?
They come at 25, 15, 10, or the big one is 100. Different
increments. Yeah. So that's kind of neat. Yeah, so that's one way to raise some extra money. And then, of course, I think we're running out of time there, but
garage sales?
Garage sales, yard sales. What's another one? Oh, a lot of kids like to do these, what do you call them? Mine went blank, but it's where they do lemonade, like, I'm going to sell lemonade, or I'm going to make some brownies and sell those, and, is it thrift sale? No, that's where you go to buy stuff. But you know what I'm talking about. Fundraisers. That's the word I'm looking for. Fundraisers. You can do that. Do some, light work like babysitting, dog sitting, house sitting, all the sitting jobs. They're pretty famous these days. So, yeah. There's lots of different ways to make some extra money, or pocket money at least. Yeah. So we hope that you have enjoyed this talk about money. And if you have any questions or comments or concerns, you can give it to us in the comments. If not, you can write to us through our email address. And
please be nice to each other, folks.
Yeah, and we would love to hear your stories of bankruptcy, if anybody went through that, or foreclosure. We went through that too with the house we were living in before we became homeless. Anything and everything, both encouraging and discouraging in the fact that what you went through, but now it was a learning experience and what not to do in the future. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm going to let Valentine say the famous last words here.
Okay, be sure to hit like, subscribe, and click the notification bell. You can also, and pinned in the comments, we try to always have links to either join our membership page. We have Fishers of Men. That's not just for men, it's for women too. It's the first tier, like behind the scenes of our lives. And then tier 2 is for women only, the Shunammite women. And that's, the first tier is 99 cents, and the second tier is $1.99. So,
yeah.
We hope that you have a blessed day stewarding your money well. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.